Y'all got really quiet really fast. I think that means it's time to start. It's a little bit bigger of an audience than I expected. Thank you all for coming. My name is Kristen Young. I'm an Enterprise Senior GIS Administrator with the City of Raleigh. My coworkers have been talking all day. Chad Foley, Justin Greco, James Albert, a bunch of different people are here from the city. Feel free to approach us if you have any questions. We also have a position potentially coming available or maybe not. We'll see. So keep an eye out for that. Anyway, I'm here today to talk about our capital improvement projects dashboard. This is a dashboard that we put together to satisfy some needs that we recognized for council to be able to see a lot of our projects and how they all interact with different departments and whatnot, so that they could look at one place to see everything. So I'll talk a little bit more about the needs in a few minutes, but that is the overarching reason that this project even came about. Okay, so for some of you, you may not even know what a capital improvement project is. Can you raise your hand if you don't know? I'm just curious if there's, okay, so most of you know what one is. So really, it's an infrastructure and operations project. It's typically for major facility and equipment needs. So like, think larger scale, don't think like small scale. So think more like stormwater culverts, major roads, other sorts of transportation and public utilities needs, water mains, things like that. Typically, they are in an established order of priority, and we've already estimated resources on them. And then they are scheduled funded projects once council approves them. So council will see every project that's proposed, and they'll decide whether to approve it or deny it. And then typically, the funding source comes from some sort of bond or something like that. Okay. What is a dashboard? So raise your hand if you know what a dashboard is. All right, that's a lot of you. Okay. So there are plenty of different types of dashboards, right? And you guys may be familiar with Power BI or with ArcGIS Online. So you can build dashboards from a lot of different software packages. The dashboard that we're going to be using is using Esri's online technology. So for those of you that don't know what a dashboard is, it's a graphic visualization tool, a different way to display data. It displays mostly key indicators. It can contain maps and statistics, so they're very dynamic. It's typically highly customizable and configurable to whatever the information is that you're looking for. And then it can be interactive. Okay, so here's our need. The need that was presented was a way of displaying many projects on a map, because historically we have taken each project and given it its own map page in a book, and then we've put that together as a book for everyone to look at. So it was going to be a lot nicer to be able to see more than one project at a time. We wanted a way to display details, so we didn't want to smother it in details to make it so that, you know, people that wanted an overview were too tired of looking at it because they couldn't understand everything. We wanted something more simple. We wanted a way to really visualize the opportunities for collaboration. So this is something I'll talk about later too. We kind of struggled with how do we know if transportation and public utilities are in the same exact street and they have projects together if they're not collaborating and we're not looking at their projects on a map together. So that was one of the needs for this project. We wanted to make sure that it was a high-level overview. So like I said earlier, we didn't want too many details. We really wanted to see the high-level overview of all the projects in the city at one time. And then we needed a way to provide information on current projects to council and the public. And this was our ultimate goal, right? So our ultimate goal is not to track every little detail that every single person in every department needs to know about their project. Our goal was to track enough information that we could provide the information that council needs to them, and then potentially provide the right information to the public so that the public can see what's going on in their front yard or in the sidewalk around the corner. That way, they're not just wondering what that giant hole is. Okay, so next up, this is our capital improvement projects dashboard. So this is going to allow us to do a lot of things. We can see a list of the projects. We can select a project on the map. We can see a map of the projects. We can click through visible projects. We can see project details. We can see the design and construction percent completes. We can filter the visible projects by department. We can visualize a whole bunch of things like searching for an address. We can show a bookmark, view a legend, add an additional layer, or change the base map. We can view the graphs containing project data breakdowns and see projects by status. So that is, oh, I went too far. So that's the custom solution that we came up with. Now, like I said earlier, this was using Esri's ArcGIS Online technology using their operations dashboard template. And this went through a couple iterations before we settled on this one to move forward with. Originally, we had been tracking things like the percent complete on projects as one single percent complete. And as we worked through our needs, we decided that it was more important to track design and construction percent completes because those are the biggest pieces that people are most interested in. You know, is the design complete yet? Do we have a way forward with this project yet? Or are we still waiting for the design to even be completed? If it is, you know, when's construction going to be complete? I want to know when that hole is going to be covered up. So, okay. So we are also able to select a project in the current project pane and zoom to it. It'll blink at you and you can zoom in. And we can view a ton of details about a project in the details pane. So if I go back a couple slides, you can see there's this widget right here that's got the project details in it. That's actually configured from the original pop-up of the data. So instead of each polygon having a pop-up when you click on it, it'll actually show it all the time in this project details window. And it's got tons of information, but we thought it was just enough to keep people interested and not too much to overwhelm them. You can search for an address, and this was huge for the public, right? If you're going to log into this and you're public and you live, you know, at One Exchange Plaza, you want to be able to go type in One Exchange Plaza and find your house. You don't want to have to try to zoom around and figure out on a map where you are because you may not necessarily be a GIS person. And then it'll zoom to the project for you once you search, or the address for you once you search for it. We've given it the widgets to be able to view the projects by department and the projects by status. These were important requirements from our CIP steering committee that worked on detailing all the requirements for this project. And they wanted to be able to see how many projects each department has at a time. How many projects is public utilities trying to manage? How many projects is transportation trying to manage? They wanted to see what percentage or how much of our projects are complete, what is still stuck in, you know, the construction phase or stuck in pre-approval phase. Maybe we have tons of projects that haven't even been approved yet, and we're really trying to get those approved. And then the design percent complete and the construction percent complete I talked a little bit about earlier, we decided to break them out, so they're broken out into two pieces. Okay, I think this should be a video. It shows. Is it playing? I can't tell. There we go. Okay, so this is just me interacting with the data. So you're able to select a project, like I said, and it'll zoom into your project. You can see that this details pane here updated to show the information on the current project that I have selected. So all of these widgets are interactive. You can also see that the ones on the right side of the dashboard over there also changed to be able to show only the project that's active, status, and department. So it kind of gives you a zoomed in view on each project as you're selecting them. You can see that they're both scrollable. You can scroll through the project details and the project list. You can click through. If you have multiple projects displayed, you can click through all of the ones that you're interested in. So say you zoom into your address, you can actually see only the projects that are in that field of view, wherever you're zoomed in, here, and click through them. So if you want to know what is the majority of projects that is near my house, you can search for your address, zoom in, and then click through these. The design percent complete and construction percent complete are all going to change based on your selections and your field of view. So if you zoom in, it's going to be an average of all the projects that are in your field of view. And if you click on a project, it's going to be of that specific project. The projects by status and the projects by department are going to do the same thing. They're going to show you exactly what you either have selected or what's in your view. The cool thing about the projects by status and the projects by departments is that you can click on a bar in the departments one, and it will filter to show you only those departments, only the projects of that department. And then the same goes for the status donut. You can actually click on one of the types of statuses. So say you want to see all the complete projects in your neighborhood, zoom into your neighborhood, click on the complete part of the donut, and then it will show you only the complete projects of your neighborhood. So you can see what's already been finished. You can also filter by department. There's a drop down in the top right-hand corner. And it says departments. It's not specifically departments. It's not specifically departments. It's actually more so the responsible department. So we struggled with whether to break this down by department or by in some other fashion, like by funding source maybe. But at the end of the day, kind of responsible department became the easiest way to break it down and break it out. So that's how we've broken it out here. So you're able to select one or more of the departments in the top right, and then it'll filter the map and all the widgets to show just whatever you have selected. There's also the ability to select projects. So that's the tool in the top left there. On the map, you can select whatever projects you're interested in. Say you want to see all the projects around a body of water near you because you think they're doing some work around that. You can go zoom into that body of water and then select all those projects, and it's going to show them all in the details in the project list here. Let's see, in the project list here in the details pane, if any of you noticed, when you scroll down and you look at the budgets and the schedule, we use some arcade expressions, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, and they're pretty cool. It's Esri's new expression language, and they make it possible to change the colors and really custom configure your attributes in your pop-ups or your details pane. So that was a pretty cool feature. Let's see. You can change your base maps. You can see the legend, and that's all happening in that top right corner of the map. You are able to turn on and off some additional layers. So we've added the CAC districts, for example, and the council districts. Those are very useful to our council members and to the public. It helps them get an idea of what else is going on in their district. So you're able to turn on those layers. And again, if you click the legend button after you've turned those layers on, you're going to see the legends, and you're going to be able to tell what all the colors mean for each of those. So that legend will actually change with what layers you have on. Okay. Here you can see that when you change the base map, you're able to get things like the imagery, which can be really useful. So you should be able to zoom into your property, and you can even see, if they made it detailed enough, which side of the road the construction might be on. And then here I'm just, again, showing that no matter what zoom level you're at, you're able to interact with the widgets and filter the map based on project department or status. Okay, so how do we do it? So I said earlier, we used Esri's ArcGIS Online organization to put it together. We used their dashboard template. The most important two things that we did were to take all the needs from every department and the things that we're tracking about each project, and to really come up with a generalized schema. That was a really important piece of this project. Like I indicated earlier, different groups may have different needs. They may have different details on projects that they're tracking, but this is not the place for all of those. This is a place for an overview, something that makes sense for every department, something that every department can fit into, and then really show to council and the public. So we customized a general schema, and we defined some domains so that they only have certain options they can pick from. There's only 7 statuses. There's not the ability to have, a million different statuses. You have to pick from one of those 7. So that really is what's going to allow us to keep the data in a format where you can kind of be able to see it across all departments equally. We also had to do some department coordination, which some of you may know how difficult that can be. So we actually have a CIP steering committee that's been meeting once a month for over a year now, trying to make sure that we keep all of our needs in sight and everything addressed appropriately. We also used arcade expressions and groups, and both of these I'm going to talk about in a little more in depth. So for the arcade expressions, how many of you are familiar with arcade? Okay, that's a good amount of people. So arcade is a new, Esri's new expression language that they came out with. It's supposed to be used across their entire enterprise system. It basically can change how features label or draw, and you are able to create custom pop-ups using it. That's one of the ways that you can utilize it. So this is what we used it for. We actually used it to do the phases in our custom pop-up. We made them green when they were the active phase. And the way that we did that was with arcade expressions. So this first expression here is saying that if the project's in pre-approval stage, then return pre-approved. And then this one down here is saying if it's not in pre-approval stage, then return pre-approved. And the reason we have two that are very similar is because the first expression here is actually in the green text over there, and this second expression here is in the white text. So what happens is if that phase is in fact pre-approval, then your first expression is going to return, which is going to be the green text, and your second expression is going to return null. So it's not going to return in the white text. So you're actually going to be displaying your current status in green, and then all the rest of them in white. So that allows, as your project changes its status, it can walk down the status list and turn each status green as it hits that status. So that was a pretty cool way to utilize arcade expressions. And if you want to visit or learn more about this, you can visit their website, which I put at the bottom there. Okay, maintenance. So this project is very much still in the initial phases of development. So we have not released our public version yet. The version that we are working on for council is now in UAT, so the users are learning it, they're getting trained in it, they're bringing back feedback to us, they're telling us what we could do better, and we're taking note of it. So at this point in time, we're still taking in more information on, is there a way we can improve? We hope to have the version for council rolled out and completely rolled out by the end of the spring this year, and then we'll move on to the public version. The public version would be very similar. The difference would be that we would use views in ArcGIS Online in order to limit the amount of data that we're showing to the public. So there may be some fields that we're not as interested in showing to the public. So we may choose to limit those fields. Specifically, like maybe if it's a water main or something, we may not want them to know that it's a water main, maybe just that it's a water line replacement. So I said right now they're in the UAT phase, so I've trained 2 departments on the use of it, and I have many more to come still. So we very much are right in the middle of training. And the way that all these projects are being maintained, we're going to be giving editor apps to each department so that they can log into ArcGIS Online, and the project managers can actually maintain their own data. So the project managers will have ArcGIS Online accounts, and they'll log in and they'll open this editor app, and they will only see their projects. We're using views in a way that they can only see their projects. And so, for example, stormwater will be able to edit stormwater. And that will be, they won't be able to see public utilities, they won't be able to see transportation. So there's no conflict with, oh, well, stormwater accidentally edited my project, now what do I do? So it's try to keep the data safe and locked down. Now, there are going to be some cases where there are a lot of projects getting updated and people have this detailed project data set that they're already keeping and they don't want to do dual entries. So there is the possibility for some custom solutions where, for example, public utilities might have their own editor app that they're editing their more detailed data set in. And then maybe nightly we would script truncating the public utilities projects out of this data set and appending in the latest update of their projects. So that would allow them to only have to maintain it in one place, but we would have the most up-to-date projects nightly. And so we would still get the best out of both worlds. They could keep all their additional details that they need, but we see just what we need for this project. Okay, and then challenges. This is the best part. So we definitely had some challenges. There's constantly been needs discrepancies, right? So keeping the project's scope in mind is really important. So the reason that we're making this is for council and then the public. And it's, like I said before, it's not to track those additional details. And that's something that is challenging, and you need to constantly revisit to remind people that the additional things that they're looking for this isn't necessarily the place for it. So that was a definite challenge. And then coordination, right? All the departments, I said we have a CIP steering committee. That committee is made up of representatives from almost every department. So they all come to the table. As long as they come to that meeting, then their concerns will get heard. So just coordinating those meetings, though, between all departments for somebody is really challenging. Keeping data safe, right? So I talked a little bit about how we were going to use the views in order to make sure that people can only edit their certain data. And we're utilizing groups in ArcGIS Online in order to share that data around in a way where other departments can't see the other data. So groups are really, really beneficial if you get a chance to work with them in ArcGIS Online. And then integration requests. This has been our latest challenge, is that everybody wants to integrate with this. They're like, oh my gosh, this is great. How do we integrate with this? How do we get this on our website? How do we make the project page come from the data in here so that I don't have to do it twice? How do we get it integrated with our project management software? How do we get it integrated with everything? So that has been our latest challenge that we are still trying to field. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
So you mentioned earlier on that one of the benefits of this, and I agree, would be so that different division departments can say, hey, the streets is doing something and the water is doing something, and they're all in the same block, so maybe we can collaborate. But then at the end, it's, well, that group can't see what that group is doing.
Right. So the question was, how are we collaborating, but at the end not editing at the same time and collaborating via our editor apps? So really, the dashboard itself is meant to be used for the collaboration piece. So this dashboard that I've shown you here is the one that would be the key. Yeah, the main overall collaboration piece. The editor apps are really just for editing their projects, for keeping up with the budget and keeping up with the schedule and making sure that all of that is correct. All that data is correct. It's for data entry, if you will.
What editor apps are you referring to?
So we just use Esri's templates in ArcGIS Online to create a simple editor app, and we just gave them the ability to edit a project. So they can edit any attributes in it. It's a very simple thing to put together. I encourage you to try it if you haven't already. Any other questions?
Is the data in a hosted feature service, or is it local?
The data is in a hosted feature service. Yeah?
Can you even talk with the visibility of your dashboard by screen size?
Yes, great question. So we do.
Because I don't see it mobile yet.
Right. Do we have issues with our dashboard on different screen sizes? We do have some issues. It is not mobile yet. So the widgets will adjust based on your resolution of your screen and your screen size. And sometimes it introduces a scroll bar for some widgets where you just need to scroll. So we've educated our users in that, and we've encouraged them, if they have a tablet, for example, to zoom their browser out so that, and yeah, control plus, control minus, scroll, so that they can see the best visible dashboard with what they've got. Now, we're not mobile for a phone yet. It's hard to view on a phone. Any other questions?
How do you convince people to enter data twice?
This is why we had the CIP steering committee. I was not the bad person that asked them to enter data twice. And we're actually trying to work against that. We're implementing a new project management software in the coming months, and the end goal after that will be for them to input their data there and only manage their shape in ArcGIS Online. So that'll be our end goal, but we're kind of in the middle right now. Anybody else? Yes. Yeah, we have not had to work with that yet. Anybody else? Yes?
Who in the city of Raleigh implemented the CIP?
So there's actually a deputy director by the name of Blair Hinkle in our stormwater department that is heading up the CIP steering committee. Yes?
Is all the functionality on this dashboard out of the box?
Yes, all the functionality on this dashboard is out of the box. The deepest we got with this was with the arcade expressions. Yep. Anybody else? No? Okay, well, thank you all for coming.